And you know what they say about divorcees.
Problems with women.
Ladies and gentlemen, I remember some years ago that toady divorcee, Stan Seder, was wondering aloud, why Virginia be turning blue? Well, first of all, I don't think he knows that he may remember Ronald Reagan's Sea of Blue when he was a fat little feller sitting on his daddy's rented couch back in 1976 when Jimmy Carter won. There was a lot of red on that map because Jimmy Carter won. And then when Ronald Reagan won the election, Stan was pounding his little fists into bloody stumps. When Ronald Reagan won the election in 1980, and then in 1984, Reagan's Sea of Blue, where there was only Minnesota and that rat-infested hellhole called D.C. were red. So I don't think he knows that. Even in the early 90s, Time magazine was still using that designation, but then the media decided, I guess they just arbitrarily decided to change it. But anyways, this was several years ago. In fact, I think he was still married at the time. I don't think his ex-wife had kicked him to the curb yet and said, Stan, you're going to live somewhere else. And Stan, being the milky toast Nancy boy he is, did what he was told. But he was wondering why Virginia be turning blue. Well, one of the reasons, here is one of the reasons. See the links underneath the video. I have all this data collated. I do it so you don't have to. Here's one of the reasons Virginia might be turning blue. And maybe it'll turn back. I hope so. Richmond, Roanoke, Norfolk, Danville, Newport News, Petersburg, Hampton, and Portsmouth. All Democrat enclaves. Again, I have all the data proving this. From 2018 to 2020, they had 623 criminal homicides. Their aggregate population was 3.170 million. That gives them a homicide rate from 2018 to 2020. This is 2018 to 2020 data. Those cities, Richmond, Roanoke, Norfolk, Danville, Newport News, Petersburg, Hampton, and Portsmouth, cumulative homicide rate of 19.647 per 100,000. By comparison, the U.S. homicide rate from 2018 to 2020 was 5.533 per 100,000. For you Democrats reading this, those Democrat-dominated jurisdictions in Virginia had a homicide rate 355.1% higher than the U.S. average. Maybe that's part of the reason Virginia's turning blue. And all these cities, I have this data as well, have really bad schools. Some of them, Petersburg may be one of the worst public school systems in the entire nation. So bad, even people in Washington, D.C.'s public schools are laughing at them. That's why Virginia's turning blue. I think the more idiots that these public schools, and this is why we need school choice, Barack Obama being an advocate for a good public education for every poor black kid, never set foot in a public school in his entire life. Stan Seder utters this word a lot, hypocrite. That's what you would describe. That would describe Barry Obongo aptly in that aspect. But I think they need these voters. They need these people to remain rubes and idiots because they're easy to manipulate. In Virginia in 2020, of the 344 arrestees for homicide, 220 or 63.9% of them were black. Of the 528 homicide victims, 350 or 66.28% of them were black. Lots of black on black homicide in Virginia. In Virginia in 2019, of the 428 murders / non-negligent manslaughter cases, of those 428, 253 or 59.11% of the victims were black. 89 of those victims were less than 25 years old. Of the offenders, 280 or 65.42% of them were black. In 2018, there were 391 murders in Virginia, and 236 or 60.35% of them were black. 92 victims were less than 25 years old. 241 or 61.63% of the offenders were black. That's where they know who committed the homicide. Do those black lives matter, or is it white privilege causing blacks to kill blacks in Virginia? And some of the most Democrat-run areas, as I've covered just recently, have very high homicide rates, very bad schools, lots of fatherless children. Asians are not slaughtering Asians in Virginia. I wonder why. Maybe because they haven't been fed lies about systemic racism, and they are likely to have college-educated parents in those households instead of a single parent that failed to finish high school. They haven't been fed those lies about systemic racism their whole lives. They are getting educated, not getting tossed out of school, not abusing drugs, not having boatloads of children out of wedlock, and not blaming everyone else when life throws you a curveball. Funny how that works out like that, eh? So, if Stan Seder wants to know why Virginia be turning blue, well, there you go. You find a diverse city in America that's been run by Democrats for decades, and you will likely find a city that is disintegrating. Have a nice day, and don't thank me for the sobering information.